periodically, as you may have been seeing on the Galileo listserv of the items that we're correcting. But we're still thrilled. Everything is functioning pretty well at this point, and I look forward to sharing with you the work that we've done today. If I could slow down for a second. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about new means to logging in to the Galileo environment. We've created a functionality called the Wayfinder functionality, which will help us going forward as we evolve access via single sign-on. A lot of you have single sign-on now and are using that actively. And we have created a Wayfinder to help route users as they come to the Galileo portal site. I'm going to take just a brief pause. I'm getting a note from the chat that there's sound issues. Mike, is everybody hearing me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Let me just get a quick list of yeses. Sorry, I know this is hokey, but if you can respond yes that you're hearing me. John Chaffett can hear. Awesome. So most people seem to be hearing.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you all. And Mike, if you could help out and perhaps do some diagnosis with her, we might be able to get her to be able to hear. I appreciate it. Sorry about that, folks. We'll keep moving. So the Wayfinder is there, again, to help route users, but you can still log in the same as you're used to with the Galileo password if you have that Galileo password, and we'll show you how to do that. We'll talk about some of the new features and functionality that we've added. We've always had a database search, but we've really improved the functionality of the database search. And I'll share with you how that functionality works, what it looks like. We also have added a new feature called the Spotlight. And Mike and I just spent time working with librarians in a session on Galileo administration, where we covered the Spotlight. This is an area where you can customize up to 6 resources and add your own resources front and center to Galileo. And we'll talk about that in more detail when we get there. I'll talk about the database lists and how those work now and some of the improvements that we're already planning here for the next phase of things with that. We'll talk about Galileo support and the changes that we've made there. We'll talk about Galileo tools and training. I've done some short videos, and there's some existing videos and other training and tools and vendor tutorials that we've moved on to a Galileo training libguide, and I'll be sure to share that with you and also show you the About Galileo pages where you'll find information on governance, policies, and other things in the Galileo environment. And along the way, we'll be talking about changes to all of these things. I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting the slide deck now and move on into just live demo because I think everything makes a lot more sense there. I'm going to go ahead and activate that share. And Mike White, you've been so helpful, although I let you down a little bit earlier on letting me know when you can see my browser screen, and we'll get going.
I can see your screen. I wanted to mention real quick that I see that Melissa and Janice, your hand is up. I don't know whether that is still up from where you were saying you could hear, but it's still up. I don't know if so.
Yeah, and if there's something we can deal with that, let us know in the chat. And Mike, you might want to type a question in the chat if raised hands or something we can help with.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that they didn't really have a question.
Yeah, understood. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's go ahead and get moving. So I'm going to take you through kind of step by step, change by change, and talk about each item that we've added or changed in detail. You'll see a lot of commonality between the current Galileo site and the previous Galileo site. One of our goals in step 1 of the Galileo redesign was to create new functionality, but with greatly improved back end, and at the same time to improve functionality on the front end where we could, with feedback from our Galileo Development Advisory Committee group, who gave us some great suggestions and user stories and scenarios that helped us to plan for that development. And that development will be ongoing. Obviously, we can't do everything at once, but we'll be continuing to do what we call iterative development or cyclical development, making new releases to Galileo periodically with some small releases and large releases, and obviously getting feedback from our users and librarians as we do that. One of the first features that we added, especially with releasing a new site, and we'll probably keep this feature, but we'll probably relabel it at some point. I'm here on the Galileo welcome page, the login page, and we have this what's new up at the upper right corner. And if I click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to describe for me as an end user what I do now. So we have the Galileo Wayfinder, which is an area where I can go in, find my institution, and log in specifically via my institution's Galileo password. Or if my institution is using single sign-on, it will route me to the single sign-on page. So it tells me to search for my institution. And then if it tells me next, if I know the Galileo password already for my institution, I can log in that way. And then I can just go ahead and skip to close that. So you have a couple of different means to log in to Galileo. We have made this tabbed so it's easy for an individual to find their institution. We have a list of all institutions at once, and you'll see I'm going to type in my institution, which is University System Office, and I can find it there. I'm going to go ahead and complete the login transaction for myself here for the University System Office. Try to anyway. This is another one of those random errors we keep getting, Mike. I'm going to have to ask Kevin about this one, even though I cleared my cache and cookies. It usually works the second time. Sorry about that, folks. It's always during training, right? There, it worked that time. So now I can go ahead and just log in as a University System of Georgia employee. And then I'll be routed through Open Athens to the Galileo landing page. So now that I'm logged into the main page, the What's New has updated to tell me what's happening here. Once I've logged in, I engage the What's New, and it tells me about the Galileo Discover search. Use that for finding articles, books, ebooks, and more. Discover Galileo searches many databases with a single search. We've included the advanced search just as we have done in the past. And then it goes on to describe how we've arranged the subjects and databases by type areas. Again, parallels to the previous site, but they work a little bit differently now. And again, I can just click skip to exit out of that. So now that we've seen that, I want to go through and just show you each of the individual site features. But before I do, I want to just illustrate that we put a simple log out button here at the top of the screen. Now this logs me out of my University System Office session, but it won't log me out of my single sign-on session. So I'll clear my cache here. And I just want to show you that it's still very easy to go ahead and if you have a Galileo password to log in with that Galileo password just by typing it in. So I'm going to go ahead and log in just so that you see it and I can point to a feature. I'm going to log in as a K-12 school. You may have people who are visiting you for K-12 schools. One of the features that we had in the past was the different views from the academic library side. Even we had the elementary, middle, high school, and educator view. We determined based on some analysis, some development priorities, and just some overall usage numbers with these views in the academic libraries that they weren't that heavily used. So we chose not to include them, but we may add them back going forward if there's demand. But this is I'm logged in as Henry County Schools, and you see that we have the different views available now that I've logged in via my Galileo password. And I can go ahead and click log out, or I can change views anytime I'm logged in. So go ahead and log out of there. One thing that I haven't shown, let me go ahead and I'll choose Bernal just for fun. It prompts me for that Bernal password, and if I know it, then I can log in. One thing I'm not seeing right now, but it's just because I'm not completing the login, I keep clearing my cache and cookies, is it also saves institutions by name. And when I cleared my cache and cookies, it took them away. But you'll have a listing of all the institutions that you've logged in as previously. And this is helpful, for example, if people at your institution, your university, college, technical college, log in and use your resources, but they also like to access, for example, ebooks through their popular ebooks through their public library. They can have multiple logins go in at the same time. but they'll have to log out and log back in, but it'll save their institution there so that they can log in, across multiple institutions without having to think about it so much. So that's one of the value adds there for the Wayfinder that we really write. So it's basically two things. It will serve us with single sign-on going forward as more institutions, eventually public libraries and K-12 schools add the single sign-on option, and we move away from the Galileo password, but also make it a little bit easier for users to log in across multiple accounts that they have with Galileo, depending on their different affiliations. Any questions coming in on the Wayfinder? I know that conceptually it's a little bit different, but I think we've done a good job of designing it, and I think it's a good functionality that will serve us well going forward.
No questions. Eli Arnold says very nice.
Thank you, Eli. I know Eli will like it, and then since we got him finally up and going with Open Athens, appreciate that, Eli. So that is the Wayfinder. Let me log in again. I'm going to show you also, I can go to colleges and universities and limit my list of institutions greatly by, kind of limiting the number of institutions I'm looking through by changing that tab. So there are a lot of K-12 schools out there, and we have listed every single school, even though we still authenticate at the district level, so there's a lot. I'm going to log in, so I'll be having a typical academic user experience here, logged in as the University System Office, which is my dedicated Galileo account that I access all the time, but just showing you other new features and functionality that we've added there. Again, the EDS search is the same as it ever was. We did some updating and cleanup on some of the profiles, more on the K-12 views than on the academic views, but we did do some substantial cleanup there to make it a little bit better. And the Open Athens implementation has been good too, because we've been able to update a lot of academic institutions' EDS when we know what resources institutions have. I think sometimes it doesn't always get communicated to us what's there, so the more we can add to your EDS search, the more powerful that it will be as you add new resources. So moving on to the databases by subject area, we have our databases by subject and type, just as we had previously. And then we also have an all databases list, and I'll talk about all three of these things. One of the things you may have noticed already, and I want to mention it just because it's easy for me to forget to mention it, you may have noticed that even before the new Galileo site went live, before we went live with Galileo Search, a lot of the Digital Library of Georgia resources, those teeny tiny collections, I always use the example of the first database that you would always see if you logged into Galileo and looked out alphabetically was the 1936 Gainesville tornado database. And if I'm looking for scholarly articles and I'm getting hit with that as number one in my list, I'm not exactly, doing great at that point, unless I'm looking specifically for that, and then I'm doing great. But it's not that often that college students are looking for that. So what we did is we took a lot of those individual collections out. We still left a lot of the core collections from Digital Library of Georgia, like the Georgia Historic Newspapers, still in Galileo, still listed there. All of the Digital Library of Georgia material is still searchable in EDS. We still have that indexed and included in the EBSCO Discover search. But we took out some of those individual databases because it did create a lot of databases in the database list. So just know, if, for example, you're looking for that 1936 tornadoes in Gainesville collection, if you go into the Explore area in Digital Library of Georgia, that's dlg.usg.edu, click on Collections, that's where you're going to go to find those things now. And it's great on all counts because it routes that traffic to Digital Library of Georgia where it needs to be, and they're accessing it directly through that particular site. So just to let you know, that's one sort of organizational change that we made in order to improve the overall usability of the site. Another thing, I can view all my subjects at once. It has my subjects listed alphabetically. I can click on View All Subjects here, and it's going to show me everything that I have access to as part of the University System Office collections. Agriculture, anthropology. What we did in terms of subjects was we got the complaint for years and years that the subjects were just too much. There was too much clutter, and there was so much granularity that it was really obtrusive to finding resources. So what we did is we took the subject headings and we mapped them to the EBSCO Discovery Service subject headings. This will serve us well in the future as we look to do some customizations, perhaps around EDS in the future. And it was an easy and fairly good system to use. We added some local subjects to continue to serve things like specifically, I'm going to browse. I can do the previous and next button to browse my subjects. So Georgia. Obviously, we needed to be able to handle things like Georgia. We also added things like elementary school, and high school, so that absent those views that I mentioned earlier, academic institutions can still search on those search terms in the database search, which I'll show you in a couple of minutes, and find resources quickly that are specific to those populations and help their education students or any students who might be visiting that institution to find what they need. But I just get a previous and next here. The numerical sort is kind of just an extra. We're kind of debating whether or not to keep it long term. The numerical sort is here. What it does is it just sorts. Obviously, I get an alphabetical sort by default, but I can get a numerical sort, which will sort the number, the list by number of resources. This could be helpful if you, I mean, I can't think of a lot of use cases for it, but it's helpful if you're looking for, your collection. What do I have the most of, just broadly here by our subjects? It might be helpful for that. But we also added subjects. I believe we included things like genealogy in here. That was an EDS subject anyway, so we wanted to make sure people could find those resources. So that's the general idea of what we did. We'll continue to make improvements to the subject categories over time. One of the next things that we'll include in all likelihood will be to get some feedback from metadata committees, from cataloging committees across the university system and other entities to help us out with continuing to improve our subject listings. But they work pretty well, and I think they're pretty well done. We also have our databases by type. We discovered that there was a lot of redundancy that had been created over time in Galileo, so we retained most of our databases by type types, but we did map some to others. And this is something that, and quite honestly, we had to do fairly quickly, but books, ebooks, and book reviews is an example of one where we could do better. We know we can do better, but we had all three of those things and there were some redundancies, so we kind of just mapped them all together. Our apologies for that, but we will do some improvements to that type of thing in the future. But if you go into the databases by type, if, for example, I'm looking specifically for encyclopedias, I come into the list. Again, you get the same previous next button, same A to Z and numerical sort, but I can go into encyclopedias, and now I can get a list of encyclopedias. I'm going to talk about the changes and improvements we made to the overall database list soon. Do note there are facets to the search, but I just want to kind of show you a couple more things with the overall sort of front view first, and then we'll dig into the lists. As I mentioned, we do have an all databases. The first thing out of almost anyone's feedback stream as we've been working on things this week and we've been hearing from Galileo users, where's my A to Z list? Some say this is an A to Z list. It is an alphabetical list of all the databases that I have access to, starting with ABI Inform, and I have no idea where it ends, but I do have an alphabetical list, but I will acknowledge it is not the same as having an A to Z list. I've been using the example of there's lots of JSTOR collections, and some institutions list those JSTOR collections separately, like JSTOR Humanities, JSTOR Social Sciences. And if that's the case, and you have a faculty member who tells the student, hey, go use JSTOR Humanities, and they're like, oh, I know JSTOR, but I don't remember which one I'm supposed to use, and I need that memory trigger, browsing helps with that. So we will probably in fairly short order, it's not going to be immediately, but soon, one of the first, I think, new functionality we'll add to this is an A to Z facet that'll let users view an A to Z list of databases by letter. So do note, I know we've heard about it, we've listened, that will be coming sooner rather than later. There are some sort options here. You can sort by relevance and by name, and you can change the number of views items on a page. As I mentioned here on the database list, one bug that we have right now that should be fixed soon is if I am in the database search here, and I don't know if it happens on this page, Mike, but it happens on some pages, it will route you to a blank search instead of searching for your search term. So if you search for a search term here and you still get 211 results, that means that that bug is in play. But you can go back to the main Galileo search and database search and find what you need. But this is the A to Z list that you do have access to. And I mentioned the facets. I can kind of break these down in different ways. I have the nice facets of type and subject on the left here when I've done a search. So I can dig into the database list that way as well. Back to the main page, and again, just talking about the functionality here, that's the all databases list, but the Galileo databases search. I've had a lot of questions about this. I think this is our first step toward a more comprehensive way of searching Galileo resources. Eventually, we'd like to add a nice bento box option. That's that search where you search some central indexes and it provides you with results that are sorted by type, by subject, by full text, by not full text, by primary sources. So we hope to be able to do that in one of the next iterations of Galileo, whether it be next summer or next winter. But that is one of our end goals, is to provide a really powerful search. This is our first foray into improving that search. We've used an open source tool called Blacklight that was created out of Stanford to create this search. And we will be, again, continuing to evolve our search as we work on this. But if I go in here, and one of the examples that came up the other day, the public librarians love this so far because they love that they can come here, take a user here, search genealogy, and immediately get them to Ancestry, their archival resources, Transatlantic Slave Database, Chronicling America, the Historic Newspaper Archives, and they can get to that right away. So that's advantageous. One of the nice things that you can do locally for your local resources, and if you need help with this, you can talk with Mike White. He's offering training on Galileo Admin right now. But one of the things for local resources that you can do is you can add keywords, new keywords and subjects to your local resources. If you have a Galileo resource, a central resource, or a cost share resource that we maintain, and you would like us to add more subjects or keywords to that, let us know, and we can, in all likelihood, do that so that we can make things more findable. Again, your local resources and Galileo Admin, you can add new keywords. The example that I give that came up in some of our Galileo Development Advisory Committee meetings was we had no problem finding things on dentistry because that keys into things like Medline, Medline with full text, consumer health. But what we didn't find, and I don't know if we will, is resources on dental hygiene. But if I have local resources on dental hygiene, if I tag them as such, then they'll come up with in the search. So that's just something to be aware of that you can do as part of the new backend functionality of Galileo, is add tags and subjects. So that is the Galileo database search, just another of the functionalities that you're used to getting from Galileo, and will continue to get, is an all databases list. And we've labeled that all journals now across all the different platforms. So if I click on all journals, in this case, I believe it's going to take me to EBSCO. Yeah, so it's going to take me to the EBSCO A to Z list here, where I can, in full text finder, search by subject or find the journal or magazine that I'm looking for. This is my perpetual example, is Consumer Reports. So I find Consumer Reports here, just like I have always done. We haven't changed any functionality there. We've just changed the name and the location of that all journals functionality, and it lives right below that database search. Just going back to the all databases search, just to talk a little bit about the work and the options that are available here. I mentioned there's a sort by relevance, and you can increase the number you get per page. We got feedback for years that these were too cumbersome, that the page didn't look good, didn't load well, was kind of not very attractive to look at and read. So we spent a lot of time on the aesthetics of this database list page. We have these gentle separators between them so that they look good. We spend a lot of time on image alignment and branding, and Mike can, again, train you on the branding for your local resources. But do note that we have the more info. We have a brief description and then more info, which gives the full description and the express link. And one of the nice features that we've added as part of the implementation of Blacklight is the ability to email database records to yourself along with the express link. So if I'm a user, I'm working in the library, and it's like, oh, well, I really want to use this database again at home. If I click on the email option, it'll let me email it to myself with some notes and a little message. And if I want to send it to my phone, I can just choose my carrier. We've already been adding some carriers to this, as people have. We've been saying if you want us to add a carrier that isn't here, do let us know, and we will. And we've already started work on doing a couple of extra carriers there, but you can actually send that database to your mobile phone so that, again, you can remember that information, have access to it later. I'm going to go back to my search here, and it'll take me back to my search results. Also, we've included the express link. One thing that we've sort of taken away is and we're always happy to generate it for you if you need it. If you need a Galileo Express link, you can always get it by going into the database list and clicking on the express link button there. The all express links list that you used to be able to generate is now generated in Galileo Admin. If you don't have access to Galileo Admin yet and you want a list of all of your databases with express links, let us know via a support ticket, and we're happy to generate it. We're also happy to train you in the Galileo Admin training on how to generate that list in reports. It's pretty simple and easy to do. So just mentioning that subtle change that we've done. So that's everything generally about logging in, the ADA search, our database list by subject and type, and the new Galileo database search. I want to take a pause. I see there's a couple of items that looks like have come through in the chat. Mike, are there any questions so far? And give you all an opportunity to type away at a question if you'd like to right now. Just a quick pause.
Yeah, there's no questions right now. Just a lot of people happy with the design and commenting on features they like.
Cool. Glad to hear it. And again, this is not done. This is never going to be done now. That's the great thing about it. Give us those comments on features that you hate too. Those will help us. If there's something that you don't love, let us know. And we can continue. It's a process of continuous improvement now. We won't let Galileo sit around like we've done in the past. I'm passionate about that, if you can't tell. The next feature that I want to share with you is the In the Spotlight area. And this is something that we're very pleased to have created for you. And we have been getting a lot of, I'll toot our own horn and say we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on this already. And Mike is already training people like mad to use this functionality on the Galileo backend and Galileo admin. So we used to have a spotlight feature that just would be a random rotating resource. And, it wasn't helpful really at all. In all honesty, it was kind of just a waste of space. It looked cool, but it wasn't very functional. So what we wanted to do is expand on that concept, but make it something that is functionally very, very nice for libraries. So what we did is we created 6 slots on the Galileo main page where you can add your most popular resources. So quite honestly, at the University System Office, the most commonly used resource, and on day 1 of launch, we added it, is the Chronicle of Higher Education. So we've already updated this. Mike updated it on day 1 in Galileo Admin so that our folks could have access to the Chronicle. Our ebooks are also pretty popular. We just kind of decided based on statistics and common usage what we wanted to have in the Spotlight as defaults, but you may change these in the Galileo admin. And we're offering, as I mentioned, regular training sessions on that, and you can send Mike a support ticket and he'll be more than happy to tell you when the next training is and tell you the type of training that you need in order to make changes to the In the Spotlight area. And you aren't limited to only Galileo database resources here. If, for example, you want to put a LibGuide here, or links to your LibGuides, or several of your LibGuides here in the Spotlight, you could do that. If you wanted to put something highlighting An academic program that you're having in the library when we get to go in our libraries again, you could add that here. If you can put a link in an image, you can add it here. There are some limits to the length. I think it's what, 300 characters, Mike, the length of the description, and you want to make sure that you use reasonably sized images. Although Galileo now automatically resizes those images for you. And other than that, it's very easy to make changes to these default spotlights and put whatever you would like into the Galileo Spotlight area. So we're very excited about this, and I think libraries are going to really take advantage of this to put what they need and what they want in those areas. Then we finally, at the end of the page, we have our About the University System. This is about just the same 6 links that you would have about your institution in the past. We can still make changes to those. In the not too distant future, we're hopefully going to be able to offer you the opportunity to make changes here. We just need to set up some communication protocols for that, and we hope to make that happen sooner rather than later. One of the things that you may be missing from the Galileo top bar, and again, apologies for all the issues with the Galileo search boxes this week, but if you need that code, we used to have a little embed button that caused a lot of problems for people and a lot of confusion for people out here to the right. If you knew what it was, great. But if you were a user and you had no idea what the embed button did or what it was, then you were sort of, it did no harm, but it could cause confusion. So we've moved, and we hope to be able to take advantage of this slot more and more in the future as well. We've moved that to a tools area. And we're still cooking up what other tools we might like to add here, but for right now, we just have the Embedding a Galileo Search Box tool, and you can come here and capture that code if you need it and slap it onto your website. And when you're logged into Galileo, it's your institution-specific code, so you don't have to worry about it being customizing it or doing anything to it unless you just want to. And then on the right side are Galileo News. If any of you were trying to access Galileo on day one and had issues, these 2 news feeds that caused the 500 errors at about 8 o'clock, we got that resolved really quickly, and this is working well now. But this just streams from our Galileo newsletter, and the Galileo Systems alert, of which there are none right now, show up right here. I'm going to backtrack up to the top of the page and show you support, and then I'm going to backtrack again down to the bottom of the page and show you the About Galileo areas, and then come back to you for questions and comments and other thoughts at that point. So we've made some substantial changes to our support area. One of the things that we did, and we will own that it was way overdue for us to do it, we made critical updates to a lot of our frequently asked questions articles. So these have been greatly improved, updated, cleaned up, cleaned out, and it is so much better, both for searching and for access and for relevance. So do note that we will continue to make updates and changes as needed to that going forward. So it was just overwhelming to do, and finding the time to do it until we finally sat down and just did it all. Another functionality that you may be missing on the Galileo login page, and I'll show you the FAQs here, is what about our guests? So in the past, we had a guest login, and it caused a lot of confusion because guests would hit the Galileo page that they had access to, and it would be only a list of non-licensed resources like DLG, Digital Library of Georgia resources, and some of our freebies that we put up on the Galileo site. So we don't want to discourage guests, but we put guest in here as an FAQ. They'll also hit the guest login if they get a bad login or if they search for an institution that isn't there in the Wayfinder. But we wanted to account for people who wanted to access our local resources, particularly Georgia resources, but they didn't, for whatever reason, have access to Galileo. They're from out of state. They don't have a public library card right now, but they still want to be able to access Galileo. We've created a resource guide using LibGuides that is specifically Georgia resources, like the Digital Library of Georgia, information on Georgia history and government. And we've also included in the additional resources area initiatives that I know some of you participate in thoroughly, like the Affordable Learning Georgia initiative. We wanted people to be able to come in and search for those textbooks and learning materials. And much of this is actually included on Galileo, but we wanted to provide for those who were accessing from out of state in particular, and rely on resources. We get a ton of support tickets from documentary filmmakers, for example, who use Digital Library of Georgia resources. And we wanted to be able to point them to a place where they could access everything quickly and easily without having to be thrown off by the Galileo portal. Now, a lot of them find those freebies via Google and other things, and they don't ever hit Galileo. But it is good for them to know that there is a guest user option if they need it. So again, we have our questions by category. So we have our all GLRI, Discover Galileo passwords questions. Any of that information we continue to include here. Our most asked questions are they're ranked by usage, and they're over to the right. We wanted to make sure that we gave proper routing to our reference librarians out there when people need specifically research help. So we included this line above our support forums if you need that type of research help to reach out to your librarians, and we provide a direct link to the all libraries list that we maintain on Galileo. And finally, we wanted to make sure that we were able to account for people that were having technical issues. And Joy, our marketing person, really wanted people to be able to feel more comfortable and have to fill out less of a form when they were asking things like marketing questions or training questions. So this is the new customer relations contact form. So if you ever need training from me on site or online or what have you, you can fill out the form and make a training request that way. Another thing that we've done on both forms is in the past we only had one place for attachments, and now we have 3, which is great. Let me pop over to the technical issues form. We've added some fields here. One of the things that we realized is 9 times out of 10, we were starting our response to support questions with, are you seeing an error message? So let's put that in the form. So if somebody is seeing an error message, they can let us know right away. And again, as I mentioned, just like in the other form, we've added 3 attachment options instead of just 1. So you can attach 3 images or 3 screen captures or 3 documents so that you can, I've seen people make a lengthy Word document so that they could include more than 1 attachment before, but that'll make it a lot easier. So that's what we've done on the support side. The very last thing I have to show you is the About Galileo area. And you can access that a couple ways. So if you're here in the support area, there's a link. You can always just go to about.galileo.usg.edu, which is this page here. Or if you're on the Galileo main page, the Galileo portal page, let me go back there. It's thundering at my house, so if suddenly I lose connection, forgive me, but I think we're going to be okay. I can go to the About Galileo area in the footer. Notice that we have also added a lot of information to the footer. The redesigned feedback form. If you have specific feedback you'd like to send us about the new site, that's an area to do that. Also our social media and newsletter information, and then our programs information, all included there. Let me go ahead and pop into About. So we get this general information about the initiative and community. The About page is divided into tabs. So we're this main page here, our programs, which we also saw replicated in the footer. Governance, and if you're in a governance committee like RACL or GalSteer and you need to see those rosters, you can find that information here, or any Galileo subcommittees. If you're looking for policies like password policies or password update policies, that information is there under governance and policies. Community, we're going to do a lot more with this in the future, but currently you can access the Galileo News, which is available here. We're so excited that the Affordable Learning Georgia initiative has done 1 million downloads for our Georgia-based open educational resources. That's awesome. And my favorite page, because I did a lot of work on it, is the tools and training area. This includes our marketing toolkit, which will have, things like vendor images and other things if you want to do some outreach on specific resources. Our presentations and materials, so if we do GLC or presentations at other conferences, we often include them on the presentation and the materials area of the site. Our statistics page, we haven't done a substantial update there, but we will probably in the future be making some changes and updates there. And finally, training, and I'll click on the training area just to show you. I've added some short videos. These are recorded by me. They are highly meh, but they'll do the job. If you need to review any of this, like logging in via the Wayfinder or K-12 views or finding the right database, those videos are there. We've had some people ask us, well, what about the old videos? We've kept those, and I've added those to the Galileo Tutorials tab here, and we'll continue to update and add tutorials. If you have tutorials locally that you've created and you would like us to share them on our community tutorial site, you're welcome to do that. I have no idea. This is me and LibGuides fighting. I need to take that down. But your recordings for your training will also appear here in the new Galileo search area, as well as the schedule for the rest of the recordings. And then finally, any of the recorded training that we've done, like these sessions, as soon as I get the recording processed, I add them here for easy access, but I'll also be sending that out to you. And finally, technical training. This is the training like Mike is doing for new Galileo admin users. That's available here as well. So just I'll continue to work on improving this site. This is one of those sites where it's good enough, but I want to get it a lot better and make some continuous improvement to it as well. LibGuides makes things easy. But just note, if you need those training materials or need to look at something in greater detail after today's session, you can find the recording, or you can possibly find a quick video to help you with that here on the training page.
Hey, Russell.
Yep.
Oh, we got a question.
Sure.
Did you say whether or not the Galileo tutorial videos have been updated?
So that is a great question. So go back to tools and training here. So the new ones that I've added here at the top of this LibGuide, I recorded over the last 2 weeks. So the search, using the K-12 views, finding the right database, finding specific journals, those are all updated. I will continue to work on updating. Some of these have the same title as the older videos, but these are all tied to the new platform, and they've all been updated recently. They are not high production value. They are not pretty. They are my voice. Sorry, but they are new. So and they're all on YouTube, so that makes them easier to look at and view, unless you're me and you don't like to hear your own voice. But there you go. All right, great question. Other questions, Mike? I'm pretty much done sharing. I'm going to come back out of the share mode here and revisit my PowerPoint slide just to make sure that I covered everything. Mike and I have both been bemoaning how poor the Microsoft Teams is at sharing PowerPoint slides, so bear with me. You know how it is. I like to present just the live site is much better than trying to share a bunch of PowerPoint slides, but slides are good as backup, and I like to make sure that I cover everything. So you saw them, there's only 17 of them, so you've seen most everything here. And again, you'll get a copy of these as well. Our contact forms, I think I got everything. Wow, I did well today. Again, the tutorials and webinars site is listed there on the slide deck that you'll get soon, and then also that feedback link that I showed you that's on the footer of the main page. That's linked there too, in case you want to find it again. Again, we love getting feedback from you. That is everything that I had to share, and I want to first of all thank you all so much for taking the time to learn more about this, to see it in action, and to talk with us. But I welcome questions at this time, comments, thoughts, ideas. And if you don't have them now, don't hesitate to share them later. You can email us directly, you can send us a support request, or you can send something in via the feedback form. Thank you.